You got a good man with a good woman, both with good jobs. That's not going to hang around in the future. The military doesn't want that. The Vatican-controlled military wants control of everything. And that includes your houses. That includes your families. They've taken over the whole economy. They've taken over all the jobs. You work for them. That's not enough. They want to take over your children. They want to make sure their people, their temple prostitutes, are in your houses so they can control your children and make sure those children grow up in a hateful, confused environment where they too are molested, because that is the type of person that goes on to follow orders most, and the military's orders are always to bring destruction on a group of people. That's what the military exists for. To destroy people, to destroy countries. And you, the American people, are the next target. This is what you had in control of old Europe. All the royal houses, all the lords, were all part of a military cult. A lot of these families are not real families. You have a Roman Catholic father with 5 boys with him that he calls his sons, which are just rape victims, kids he molested, kids he programmed into being homosexuals, kids he groomed to hate. And he's going to send these kids off as little snotty lords of different lands to marry the real women of the area, to make sure that their houses are taken over and whatever children they have is under the control of this military order. So while this was happening, the only thing you got is as haughty as a Templar. Now you hear this lie that the Knights Templar were rounded up by the Roman Catholic Church and they were all tortured. And they all said strange confessions concerning Satanism, human sacrifice rituals, cannibalism, obscene acts, homosexuality. The Knights Templar were not rounded up and tortured by the Roman Catholic Church for being the Roman Catholic Church's military, following orders to invade Western Europe. All the confessions, the quote-unquote confessions, that the Roman Catholic Church got were by torturing the real people who had been victimized by the Knights Templar, who had witnessed these acts, who had been forced off their lands, who have had their families taken from them. Anybody who survived this and knew what was happening, anybody who heard about this was tortured by the Roman Catholic Church, and they got these quote-unquote strange confessions. These were not confessions by the Knights Templar. All these confessions you got were from the real people who had been victimized. It said these guys were up to rape, murder. They're stealing from people. They're practicing satanic rituals. They're practicing cannibalism. They're homosexuals. And these people that were saying these things were then lit on fire. They were executed and lit on fire. So this whole idea that this guy named Jacques de Molay, who was the Grand Master of the Knights Templar, was arrested by the Roman Catholic Church and then set on fire as a punishment, that's a lie. He went underground with the rest of these Roman Catholic knights who were employed to invade Europe, take over Europe, steal from the real people, and then masquerade themselves as the real people they just robbed, raped, and killed. And did secret societies cease to exist after the Knights Templar were being outlawed? No. A bunch of other secret societies just sprang right up. The Freemasonic secret societies, like the Knights of the Order of St. John, the Knights of Malta, Opus Dei. You ever notice that all these Freemasonic secret societies often have Roman Catholic names? Or you got the Shriners, which is like a Middle Eastern style of a secret society. And that goes to show that the Knights of Templar, they got along fine with the secret societies of Middle Eastern soldiers called the Assassins, the Ishmaelis. But when you really look at the Knights Templar were affiliated with the Muslim secret societies, the Muslim military orders. They all knew each other. Both the Knights Templar, these European knights, and the Muslims were all doing the same thing, which is they were invading small villages and killing good people, raping the women and children, enslaving the children, and lighting people on fire. and they always have a guise, they always have a cover story of what they're doing. But behind the scenes, these secret societies from Europe and the secret societies from the Middle East all knew each other. They were all affiliated. They were all part of pagan witchcraft. And of course, there'll be some battles between the groups, just like there's battles today between the different groups. But the high-ranking members of military orders from every country, they'll send certain troops out there to die, and I think you can guess who they are, while their chosen few stand in the background and send the young kids off to die in some battle. And when all this carnage and all this confusion is happening, they're hiding all sorts of rape and torture and disgusting acts under the guise of war. So they have all this mystique about the Knights Templar. Were they warrior monks? And then you hear that the Knights Templar invaded southern France, the Languedoc region of southern France. Or they kind of obscure that. And they say that the crusading knights from northern Europe invaded southern France. And this has a long history that you could hear about in my series on the Bulletproof Cyrus 13 channel called The Holy Grail Exposed. But to quickly simplify it, a lot of different cultures had gone to this area in southern France, and they were very educated in that area. They say when most of these knights couldn't even write their name, this area was known for being very educated and very tolerant to other people's religious beliefs. So it was like a little America there. And once all the Roman Catholic Knights Templar, the crusading knights, once they got done raping and killing everybody in the Middle East, they were unleashed upon Europe to places like the Languedoc region of southern France and told to kill all the peaceful people over there. There was a group of rebels that stood up against them, and they were called the Cathari. And those were the warrior monks. Those were the fearless ones that would fight to the death, no matter how outnumbered they were. That was the true human spirit, not these disgusting, vile idiots called the Knights Templar. They hijacked that title, that phrase, warrior monks, from the real warrior monks, the Cathari, that stood up against these fucking animals. The Roman Catholic Church has always sought out to attack the strongest of humanity, and then they hide behind them and pretend that they are them as part of their programming, so that you'll respect them when they get up and put on all their medals and march in their parades. They all become John F. Kennedys and William Coopers and George Washingtons and Malcolm X's. They become all the people they sought to bring down and destroy as part of their programming, so they could fool you a little bit better. That's what all these fucking mutts are programmed to do. Hide behind the strongest, pretend they're the strongest, when behind the scenes, they were attacking and killing your strongest, so they can masquerade behind them. So all throughout Europe, these Knights Templar, these Roman Catholic knights, took over society. And all you hear in history books is that they became very wealthy. So this is the nature of militaries. This is the nature of religions. I'm not criticizing the Krishnas, the Buddhas, the Christs, the Mohammeds. Usually these are the people who are victimized by the military. They had a message. They had new ideas. So the military swarmed around them, noted down what they were talking about, and then usually killed them. And then went around saying, we are the priests of Muhammad. We are the priests of Christ. We are the priests of Buddha or Krishna. So do what we say because we have these teachings of these great philosophers. So a bunch of military, pedophile, sadistic scumbags are wielding the philosophy of people who are enlightened or had new ideas. So they always hide behind a philosophy or a spiritual teacher. If you just open your eyes and see who's standing in those churches, see who's standing at the pulpit in these churches, see who's standing behind the altars in these churches, see who's on your TV sets, you will see that they are sadistic, scumbags. They are insane. They used to call militaries legions. So the Roman Empire had legions of fighting men. Huge groups of fighting men. How many legions do you have? Well, we have a whole religion. That's all religion is. It's a military. And throughout history, that's all religion has been used for, is a bunch of military people to paint crosses on their shields and say, we're going into foreign countries to change people into our religion. And they feel somehow justified by doing that. And you should know, if you're living in America, that is not necessary. How many religions do we have here? On Sunday, did the different religious groups get out of their churches and mosques and temples and go to war in the street? No. Why? What are you talking about? I want to go home and hang out with my family. I don't want to go down the street and beat up a Muslim. So that was my message for a long time. So of course the military has to go ahead and create their own problems. Like in England, when they say these roving bands of Muslims are going around attacking peace-loving English people. Those angry Muslims are military agents. Those violent Muslims are MI5. If there was any sort of threat on English society, on the English crown, on the English military, they would be rounded up and killed and put in prison in about 2 or 3 days. When you hear about these Muslims going around England and attacking people, those are all MI5 agents to create a hysteria in England to get you all mad and whipped up over some more religious hysteria. It's a bunch of bullshit. Over here in America, if you've researched terrorist activity, it's all linked to the U.S. military. The U.S. military will bomb their own freaking trade center, will fly planes or blow up their own trade center to blame people in the Middle East so they could have an excuse to go there and invade that country. How can we get everybody whipped up and want to attack Iraq? Well, we'll say that the Iraqis attacked us. So let's blow up our buildings, say planes flew into it, and then blame Iraqis. And when you start researching that, you hear about all the inconsistencies and all the lies and all the BS. Because these military guys are stupid. And that's the whole point. They don't want a bunch of intelligent, educated, moral people in the military. What works best in the military are little brain-dead mutts who have been raped at a young age and are just full of hate. They're the ones who follow orders. They're the ones that will love to go into any village and kill everybody in the village and bring suffering upon those people in the village. They don't care. That will make their day. You get some educated or moral people in the military, they're saying there has to be a better way. I don't want to do that. These people aren't attacking us. We're not finding any reason to attack them. Let's not do that. And if you look at this channel, you'll see what all these freaking religious and military societies are doing. Which is basically bringing people out in the woods and slowly torturing them to death. In some obscene act. That's a good time for these degenerates.